Ebonite crushes it with a pair of brand new asymmetrical releases just in time for the fall bowling season. Hey team, and welcome back to the channel, and welcome back to the bowling season. My name is Brian, core design engineer with Brunswick Bowling, and today we're walking you through the two brand new Ebonite releases in their lineup, two asymmetrical balls, one with brand new core technology in the crusher, and the other with a brand new cover stock wrapped around the classic One core. It is the One Reverb. Very excited to talk about these two new balls, and we're doing a little bit of a hybrid video today, bowling pun intended I guess, because not only are we talking about the core of the brand new release in the crusher, which is what I always do, but if you haven't already noticed, I've also been doing charts for the Bowl Expo releases, and since Ebonite didn't have a true summer release this year, we're going to follow up with the last chart of the brands of Brunswick with the Ebonite chart that's going to show you where these two brand new releases fit in relation to all of the balls in the current Ebonite lineup, and that is going to round out the summer release chart video series that I did for you guys. And the whole point of this is just to make sure that you have good buying power. You're conscious of your buying decisions when you decide what balls you're putting into your arsenal. All of these charts lay out the strengths and weaknesses of the new releases in terms of their total oil volume and shape. I want you guys to have a full understanding of where they fit into each product lineup before you make your decisions about which balls go into your arsenals. So all of this is just to give you the tools to make the right buying decisions. But before we get into all that, we're going to talk about these two new releases in a little more detail, and especially the crusher, because it has a brand new asymmetrical core to the lineup, and this is going to be in the Pro Performance category. It has a lot of bells and whistles, so bear with me as we walk around this new crusher core. This brand new crusher core is on the low side of medium in terms of RG with a 2489. That's going to be medium fast revving in terms of how early the ball picks up and starts to rev on the lane. An 056 total differential is about as high as we get in total differential. That's going to be max flare potential and max change of direction. And 016 intermediate differential, that's on the medium to low side of intermediate differential. Intermediate differential helps the ball change direction when it sees friction. And an 016 is going to be kind of on the low side of medium. What that's going to do is it's going to be a little more sweeping, a little less jerk in the late mid lane, which is also going to help the continuation for an asymmetrical bowling ball. But it's not just the core numbers that matter when we're talking about ball motion. We're also looking at the core shape, and this core is very unique. This crusher core can be broken into effectively three distinctive parts. First, you have your big middle central sphere that has effectively a target on it, if you look at that. The target is aesthetic, but the actual body of the core is very purposeful. It's going to concentrate some mass in the geometric center of this bowling ball. It's going to be a very heavy mass-centric core that's going to help drive the RG down and going to be a fast revving, tight spinning core. Above that centric mass, you see that it has some upper wings. The two larger upper wings are building asymmetry into this core. That's where the 16 points of intermediate differential are coming from. And the two wings opposite are counterbalancing and adding a little stability to this core. Those wings are above the mass center, so they're obviously going to create a little bit of instability in the core, which is going to help it seek its PSA faster. And opposite that, you have a big radial disc on the bottom of this core, because this is a dot ball. And although this disc is on the bottom of this ball, it still is on the pin axis. This is a big radial disc. It's actually the exact same disc that you see in the Game Breaker series in the GB4 Hybrid and the GB5 as the latest Game Breaker series balls, but it is in all of them, and it is a relatively large, relatively dense disc relative to the compound that surrounds it, again displacing mass away from the center of mass of this core, giving it some instability to give it a little more shape when it wants to change direction. And it wouldn't be a Pro Performance release if this core wasn't surrounded by some additional technology. Of course, we have Dynamic Core, the blue compound material for harder hitting power when it hits the pins because it compresses less than standard material when it goes through the pins. And surrounding that is a brand new optimized hybrid cover stock. Optimized base is not an HK22 cover base, so it is more of a quote-unquote standard hook base, But because of that, this is gonna bring some of the nostalgia back to the Ebonite line. You're gonna see some of that big sweeping, arcing, continuous motion that you used to get out of some of those Ebonite balls of the past, and it's going to be in a big package with this brand new core for a lot of flare potential, a lot of hook potential, and a gradual sweeping transition at the back of the lane. For a big asymmetrical ball, this one isn't super early, not read at your toes early. It is a more medium revving core, as we stated before, but it also is a sanded hybrid cover stock. And it's not crushed with surface, it comes at 2000 box finish. So the combination of the hybrid cover stock with the 2000 finish means that it's going to get through the fronts with a little bit more ease than some of the biggest, chalkiest, most heavy asymmetrical bowling balls, and it's going to give you a wider range of versatility on more medium patterns as well as those heavy patterns. So although this is a big, strong ball, it's also fairly round and fairly versatile big, strong ball. Switching gears now and talking about the brand new One Reverb. This one really got our attention early on in testing. The early adapters, the pros that were able to throw this, the pros that have been doing the videos for it, and some of the web reviewers have already commented on this ball's performance. This one is going to meet or exceed any of the balls in its current performance category in terms of head-to-head motion at the back of the lane. This is the One Reverb. Now, we've had a couple One releases in the past that have gone over really well, a couple that have been take it or leave it, and this one, I hope, regardless of your previous experience with any of the One balls in the series, I would hope you would give this one some consideration because its back-end performance in the asymmetrical category is next to none as it currently stands. There's only a few balls in the industry that can compete with its back-end performance, and we do make a couple of those bowling balls. Before we get into too much depth about the ball motion shape and where they all stack up on the chart relative to each other, I did want to touch base one more time on this traditional one core. This is an absolute fan favorite. It keeps coming back for a particular reason, and the reason is it is good ball motion for a wide range of players. It is a very chunky core, for lack of a better phrase. 2466 is about as low of an RG as we care to get. This shares an 056 differential with its counterpart, the Crusher, but this has a much higher intermediate differential at 027. That intermediate differential means that it's going to see friction and it's going to lock up and change directions incredibly quickly. Now with the sanded cover, that usually means that it's going to change direction really hard in the mid lane and then get rolling forward. But with this new cover stock technology and of course a compounded finish, it's getting through the fronts a lot easier before making its change of direction. Of course, this core is wrapped in dynamic core, and it has the brand new HK22C cover stock that contains the GB 15.1 additive package. Now that is a mouthful. This is probably my third take on this video, is a peek behind the curtain. But all that's to say, we'll break it down by component to make it really easy for you to understand. HK22 is the base material, of which all the other things, the pearls, the additives, are added to in order to make a complete cover blend. HK22 is the base material, and we find it to be an industry-leading base material for length and response on the back of the lane. We have added cohesion, that is the C in HK22C. The cohesion additive is the elevator of the HK22 cover base. We found that it's given us more back-end continuation, especially when you sand the ball, but even on shiny balls, more back-end continuation and just more total hook at the back of the lane than an HK cover base without the cohesion additive package. So that is an addition to HK22. And the standard base package that this ball is built around is the GB 15.1 additive package. That is a strength step up from anything that you've seen. The GB additive package has been used on the Game Breaker series, of course. It has been used on previous One balls, but never in this strength. So all told, this is the strongest shiny cover that has ever been on a One ball, bar none. And you'll see in a second as we look through the charts that the performance stacks up to the hype. Okay, we're going to put these two brand new releases on the chart and show you how they stack up with the rest of the current Ebonite lineup. But before we do that, I have to remind you exactly what we're doing and why. I'm going to give you a strategy for building a 6-ball arsenal for the Ebonite brand. And why 6 balls, you might be asking. Of course, you know, if you've already seen these videos, you can skip this part. But if you want a refresher, it's because it's 2 3-ball totes. Those travel very easily to any league or tournament around town, and of course if you're flying, then each of these 3-ball totes goes under the 50-pound limit for flights. So with that, let's break down how we want to build a 6-ball arsenal. We want 2 balls in each of the oil performance categories. That means 2 balls for heavy oil performance, 2 balls for medium oil performance, and 2 balls for the lightest conditions that you're going to encounter. And for each of those oil performance categories, you're going to want a sharper option and a smoother option. In other words, 2 balls for heavy oil, sharp and smooth, 2 balls for medium oil, sharp and smooth, and 2 balls for light oil, 1 sharp, 1 smooth. You get the picture, it's pretty simple. With that, we're going to go ahead and throw these Ebonite balls up on the chart and take a look at what the current Ebonite lineup was looking like before we brought these new releases in. And I'm going to drop one other caveat in here. We are also going to talk about the Fireball Purple and Gold that came out in May, and it didn't get its due diligence because it has been a long and crazy expo season with lots of releases dropping. But if you're looking for light oil performance, then certainly we're going to talk about that ball as well. We'll be dropping that ball on the chart with the 2 new releases, the Crusher and the One Reverb. But first, let's talk about how this chart is currently laid out. You have your strong asymmetrical balls toward the top of the chart, and you'll notice that there's kind of a gap where a couple balls could be dropped in the heavy oil performance categories for Ebonite. But beyond that, we have some of our cleaner, more back-ending options for medium conditions in the Emerge series, and then below that we have our standard true benchmark performer, the Game Breaker 5. This is my favorite symmetrical ball leading up to this year so far. This is just a true performer that backends more on the back of the lane than you typically expect for a strong sanded solid ball, so I put it squarely in the chart, a little extra back-end performance, and dropping down below that, an easy step down into the Fireball series. Fireball Purple Gold will be on this chart in a similar area as well. So dropping in these balls, we'll talk about them one at a time. We're going to start with the Crusher. It is the strongest asymmetrical ball currently in the lineup in terms of total package. Now, it doesn't have as much intermediate differential as the One series. It's not as strong at the back of the lane as an Emerge series ball, but it is that blendy, big, diggy asymmetrical ball that everyone needs at the top of their bag. The interesting thing about this being a hybrid with a little less surface is that it is just a little smoother overall. It's cleaner through the front part of the lane with a more gradual, more continuous change of direction than some of the biggest asymmetrical balls from other lines. So even though I did put this one in the top smooth category, I do feel like it might be just a quarter or a half step down from some other brands' biggest, strongest asymmetrical balls, but that's not to its detriment. I actually think that adds to the versatility of the Crusher and gives it a little bit of usability and playability as the lanes transition and break down. You might not have to get out of this one as soon or as early as you would with other big asymmetrical balls, but on top of that, I also feel like it gives you some utility on fresh medium oil conditions as well, where the other balls might be too early or just too strong to compete. Now on the opposite side of the chart, but still in a similar strength category, we're looking at the new One Reverb, and it's kind of everything that the Crusher isn't. It is clean through the front part of the lane, it is incredibly responsive as soon as it sees friction, and it wants to go left to right for a right-handed bowler. So this is going to be the strongest skid flip ball in Ebonite's performance lineup, and it's going to be the strongest skid flip ball that Ebonite has produced. You notice that even though it is so sharp, it is still high on the chart in the medium to medium high oil volume category because it has the capability to cover so many boards, especially if you're on a more medium condition. That built-in friction that you see on these high ratio, easier house shots lends itself to being bounced, and that is exactly what this cover wants to do wrapped around this incredibly strong asymmetrical core. Of course, you do want to feed it enough oil volume because an intermediate diff as high as 0.27 means that this ball can stand up if you're not feeding it enough fresh head oil in the front part of the lane, but as long as the ball is getting through the fronts naturally, then it's going to have no trouble cornering at the back of the lane. And finally, and I don't normally do this, I haven't done this on any of my other charts, but I went ahead and I stacked a ball on top of another ball. The original Fireball is just a shade weaker and a shade cleaner and sharper than the new Fireball Purple and Gold. Fireball Purple Gold is going to be a shade stronger, a shade rounder overall in motion, with just a little more mid lane and a similar amount of back end motion, which means all told it's going to have a touch more hook, which gives it a little more ability to handle those more medium conditions. And I'm saying just, because if there were a little more separation between these two, then I probably would have put them in their own categories, not stacked on top of each other, because I haven't spent the time to put each one exactly, 2 millimeters down into the left to make sure they exactly fit with each other relatively. If you'll notice, all the other balls on all of my charts are either in the center of a square or on the line between squares. None of them are inched around to make them match exactly. I just wanted to give you general ideas of where they fit in their box finish at their respective performance oil categories, where they perform the absolute best. This is going to be for an average player, average layout, no tricks or anything like that. The reason I did an exception for the Fireball Purple Gold is that there's not much separation to these. It's kind of at the low performance category, it's kind of a color difference, and it's going to be just a slight performance upgrade in terms of total hook for the new Purple and Gold, but all told, it's almost a near replacement for it. And just pick your favorite colorway, because you can't go wrong with either of these two. They're both beautiful and they both perform for their oil price point category. Alright, that was a little bit long and a little bit rambly, but hopefully incredibly educational look at the new Crusher and the One Reverb, both from Ebonite and both available at your local pro shops coming right up. Of course, these new releases do fill some gaps that were needed in the Ebonite Arsenal, and now you have a full range of products in the Ebonite lineup to build your own personal arsenal. Feel free to look at all the other charts and make your decisions. Remember, when you're buying bowling balls, we're not asking you to buy every single release from every single company. We know there's a lot of products on the market right now, and we're trying to build the best products that fit each brand in a way that makes them complement the line. We're doing that, and I'm giving you this extra bit of resource information to help you make the best buying decision so that you pick a ball that complements the balls that are already in your lineup. I hope you consider the information I've given you for building arsenals, and I hope you consider taking a look at the Crusher and the One Reverb, because these have been really strong performers in our testing. I'm going to make new releases about the new core designs as they come out for the brands of Brunswick going forward, so as new cores come out, you'll have all the information that you need to make a decision about what you want in your arsenal. Until next time, I'll see you in the next video.